welcome to Friends That Invest, the finance podcast that feels like a voice note from your favorite finance friend. My name is Sim Kaur. I'm an accredited investor, and I am so wildly passionate about all things money and investing. This week, we are going to talk about why your 9-to-5 job is not the devil. It is not the worst thing about you, and social media may make you feel otherwise. We see so much content and discourse. I probably do this as well a little bit, let's be honest, around you should be a business owner, you should start your own thing. And as a society, we love to celebrate people going out on their own and building their own businesses. But there is a special place in the world for people with jobs, and you can still create real meaningful wealth and have your dream life without having to start your own business. So in this episode, I'll be sharing the 4 things you can do across 4 chapters. So let's just get straight into it. Chapter number 1, your 9-to-5 helps you understand what works and what doesn't, because if you were to ever want to build your own thing in the future, or take your skill set and take it somewhere else and apply for a higher role in another company, you don't know what you do not know. I remember when I started at my first 9-to-5 job, this was my full-time job. I'm not including the part-time work I did as a student or, the petrol station job that I did when I was in high school or university. Those things aren't important in this context. I'm talking about like your big girl job, your corporate job, or your medical field job. I was an optometrist, and when I was there, I learned very quickly skills that I did not get taught at university. Things like people management and leadership. I saw what good leadership looked like. I had 2 mentors. They were incredibly amazing. They were these older guys that just took us all in, all the like new graduate students, and they were so humble and unassuming, but also very knowledgeable. And so that's not something you do like a paper in at school, but they taught me this idea of like, be really, really clinically smart, but it's okay to be a little bit humble and like your work will still shine through. I also had some characters in my job, and they taught me what maybe leadership didn't look like. And I would notice that when they would make me feel bad, whether it was on purpose or not, I just would like clock that. I also will actually go back to one of my jobs when I was in university, and it was like a retail job, like in a mall. And the manager there that owned it, she was so mean. She made me cry on the shop floor, and I was like crying, and she was like, if you cry on my floor, like I will fire you, which made me cry more. And obviously I did actually end up getting fired within like 3 months of this job. It was so embarrassing, and I was so scared to tell my parents, but obviously it all worked out in the end. Clearly I'm over it. Clearly I've definitely moved past that. But in saying that, when you work a job, you compared to someone, have you ever met people that have gone straight into owning their own business and they've never worked a corporate job? You can often tell that that is the case. No shade to them. Some of my friends are like this, and I love them dearly. But they haven't had the core experience of what it feels like to be an employee for someone else. They haven't experienced a bad manager at them or a great manager at them. And so maybe they find it hard to build those leadership skills because they haven't seen it from the other side. They also haven't seen how employees like work together or gossip together when management is poor, or how we all kind of like give each other looks like, oh my God, like, are you hearing this? Like, this is crazy. Once I had a manager email us all telling us that we could not have coffee cups on our desks. It just was so passive aggressive, and the reason for it made sense. I mean, we were optometrists, we had patients. Maybe it wasn't right to have like, hot drinks everywhere. Maybe some clinicians weren't taking their cups back up into the kitchen. But, you just felt like you were being treated like a kid. And those little things like that teach so many good core skills of like, okay, well, if I ever become a manager, or if I ever have leadership in my career, and in my case, if I ever start my own business, I will never treat my teammates like, I'm never going to passively aggressively email them and be like, you're not allowed to do this, or you can't do that. Like, it's a conversation to be had. And so the first skill, and one of the reasons why I think a 9-to-5 is actually a pretty good career, is that you are having what my friends in med school, they got taught, you've got your like theoretical things that you get taught in med school. And then when you start working in the hospital, there's this thing called the hidden curriculum. And the hidden curriculum is what you learn on the job in the hospital. And it's the things that maybe they don't teach you in lectures, but you pick up on it when you're there. Maybe it's things like bedside manner or like the politics of the hospital or learning how to navigate getting leave because that's difficult to do. All those hidden curriculum skills are the exact same in the corporate world. You need to learn how to get along with people. You need to learn how to politely say, I don't want to do that. You need to learn how to politely say, this is not my problem. Like, you need to take care of that. Because if you write that in an email, you get fired. But if you go, hey, thank you so much. I am currently prioritizing these other tasks. Which tasks would you like me to deprioritize so that I can take this on? You know, like you just kind of learn a new language almost. And so one of the reasons why I never bag on having a 9 to 5 is because where else would you learn these soft skills? And if you ever wanted to move careers or become a business owner down the track, you've basically gotten like a mini MBA in leadership just by experiencing good leadership or bad leadership. Chapter 2 on the second reason why I love a 9 to 5 job and how you can use one to become wealthier, to get to a better financial position, is 9 to 5 jobs offer something that businesses cannot offer you unless your business is doing incredibly, incredibly well, in which case you might not even need this anymore because you can just hire someone for it. But a 9 to 5 offers you the ability to upskill so much more easily than a business will. I thought that by starting my own business, I would have more free time because as the business owner, you know, if I wanted to go back to university and get an MBA, or if I wanted to upskill and do courses, I thought that I could pay for it myself through the business and send myself off on these leadership courses or these business courses. And the truth is, when you're a business owner, you have a million other things to do. You have a team to take care of, and you're not going to be like, hey guys, I'm going to disappear for 3 weeks on like a leadership training camp. And that is almost laughable now that I think about it. I'm feeling guilty going on my honeymoon. Like, I don't know how I would have done it any differently. But when you work a 9 to 5 job, your company, especially if it's a large company, especially if it's a company that encourages internally having teammates move upwards, they are so happy and so excited when they meet really proactive employees that are like, hey, I really want to build this skill set because I know it will help me here and let me do my job better. And honestly, manager, it will take all this stuff off your plate. Can you please tell me like what programs you have available or where I can like learn new things? Or can I bring some examples to you? I have a cousin who her company paid for her MBA in AI, and she was growing up in India, and her MBA in AI was from a university in California. Like, that is huge. That is US international fees. I cannot imagine the cost of that. It will probably have been like over 100,000 USD, which is I love my cousin. This is probably beyond her salary. She's young. I can say that. She's like a teenager basically. But the fact that she had that opportunity and no one can ever take that away from her. And even if she leaves that job, in 5 years time or 10 years time, she has that with her. The fact that your job will send the right people. They won't do it to everyone. They won't be like, you get a degree, you get a degree, you get a degree, you get a degree. It's not like an Oprah situation, but they really do always keep an eye out for people that they think can do well. And for them, you're an investment. Like, if they can put some training into your career and invest into your career and send you to like leadership camps or send you to executive education workshops, you'll come back with more skills. You'll come back helping the business grow, and then you'll come back helping their bottom line. Like, it is in a company's best interest to look for talented and motivated people and to pour money and energy into them. And by doing that, even if in the future you decide this company isn't for me anymore, or maybe I do want to try my own thing, you have those skills that you've not had to pay a dime for. And on top of that, you usually still get paid your salary when you go and do those things. When I was an optometrist, I wanted to become a pediatric optometrist, which is like an optometrist for children. So I was doing eye tests on like little 2-year-olds, and my youngest was like a 1-year-old. And every second Friday, my company sent me to an ophthalmologist who was a pediatric ophthalmologist. And I just sat in the corner and observed him and took notes, and he would do eye tests on these little kids that were more serious eye issues. And not only did I get to sit there and learn and watch that and be able to grow my own experience and improve my CV, I was also still getting paid my 9-to-5 job. And so I was getting paid and learning more, which would have gotten me more of a higher salary in the future if that was the career that I was going to go down. That's probably my favorite part, but I just love that 9-to-5 jobs can help you upskill. Again, like I said, it's not like every single person will get this because that's not a good use of a company's resources. But if you start behaving like the person that gets stuff done and is like really motivated and just honestly just asks and puts in the effort, I promise you, like whatever upskilling you want your company to pay for, a good manager would absolutely do it for you. Now, chapter 3 is a little bit less about your income because chapter 3 speaks about what you do with that income. When you have a 9-to-5 job, you have a set salary, and that is actually a very, very, very unusual thing unless you again have a very steady and stable business. Like now in my 6th year running Friends That Invest, I have a salary, but in the first year, I didn't take a salary. In the second year, I took like a minimum wage or below minimum wage salary. I think it was like $50,000 a year. I did that for another 2 years, and then eventually I started increasing my income. Now, those were years that I didn't essentially have a lot of income because I was trying to pour it back into the business. And it worked out, but if it hadn't, like that would have all gotten to waste. But with a 9-to-5 job, you have a steady salary that you can reliably have coming in. Like imagine if you went out and became a graphic designer. Your income would kind of be based on projects. If you got a lot of projects at the start of the year, companies are like, hey, we want to rebrand. Fantastic. Maybe you made like $80,000 in quarter 1. That's huge. But then quarter 4, the year is ending. People aren't really wanting to take on projects, and you make $10,000 that entire quarter. And so you can see like there's quite a difference. You don't make as much money consistently. Sometimes businesses up, sometimes businesses down. The best part of having a 9-to-5 consistent and reliable salary is you don't have to worry about the money coming in. Your only goal is to control the money going out. So you should know 2 numbers, exactly how much goes into your bank account per month and exactly how much is leaving your bank account per month. And not a lot of people track the latter, but when you do that, you become quite confident in your finances because you're like, I know exactly, whether you're happy with it or not is a different story, but you know exactly like, okay, I make $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month and I spend $4,000 a month. Now you know exactly how much you're working with, so you can adjust it. And the quicker you use that ability to reduce your maybe unnecessary spending and instead put that money towards investing, the more you reduce the spending, the more you increase your earnings and the more you invest that difference. That's really the secret sauce to becoming a wealthy person. It's not like a get rich quick scheme, but I remember on the podcast, I think 2 years ago, we invested this incredible lady. She had worked at a news source company and she's now like semi-retired. But at the time she shared how she just worked her 9-to-5 job. She would just invest a huge chunk of her money into index funds. And by the time she hit her late 30s, early 40s, her investments were now the same size as her income. And now she's actually recently decided to leave her job. And last I heard, she is making like an absolute killing in her next phase of her life, her next career. Like I think she's doing a South by Southwest talk with Mark Cuban, the billionaire from Shark Tank. So this woman has done so well for herself. And we are so proud of her at Friends That Invest. Like it. Anyway, I'm going to get emotional. But the idea behind like, oh, a 9 to 5 job, like maybe I'm like not smart enough or I'm not good enough or like, I don't know, Sim. It's not true. None of it is true. And in all honesty, like business owners, the ones that I have met at least, they don't prioritize saving and investing because they're like, oh, maybe one day I'll just sell my business and that will be how I retire. But what happens if the business goes down? What happens if no one wants to buy it? What happens if they're like, oh my God, I am 65. I thought I would be able to sell this clinic that I own, but no one wants to buy my optometry clinic. And I never put money into my retirement account and I never really saved and invested. And so just because people make money in business doesn't always mean that they're good with money. I mean, I will put my hand up and say that was me in my first year of business. It was a side hustle I'd begun. I was making really good money selling like merch and I was running this thing called the Indian Feminist. And I spent so much of that money in the first year on like Sephora and eating out and just spending money on anything other than like the share market. Like it was really embarrassing in hindsight. But at the time I like didn't know any better. And so it's so important that if you are the kind of person that makes, let's say, $70,000 a year, but you're investing 10% of your salary each year, you're investing 20% of your salary each year, then you are still better off than the person with $1 million business, but they are not putting a single cent away into their savings account or their share portfolio and they're living lavishly because they think they'll just sell the company. Like, you need two things. You need to be making money, sure, but you need to be spending less than you earn and you need to be investing the difference. And I will harp on that. You're going to hear me saying this as like a 7-year-old with white hair, and I'll be like, you need to spend less than you earn and you need to invest the difference. Like that is what you're going to hear from me. And number 4 of why I am not hating on 9 to 5s, and it's actually a really great place to start, is your 9 to 5. This is more for people that like want to branch out in the future, but your 9 to 5 will be your first investor. I don't remember where I first heard this, but it absolutely changed my life because I was like, oh, that's so true. Like my 9 to 5 job pays my bills. And then in the evenings, I can try out other things and see what works and see what sticks. And so when I was building Friends That Invest, I was still working my 9 to 5 job. And there was about a 18-month overlap between starting my job, building Friends That Invest, and then after 18 months, I quit my job because Friends That Invest was starting to grow and I was able to pull a little bit of a salary. And so I really thank my job for existing because my job let me buy my first home when I lived in this tiny little town and the house prices were like $500,000. Like they're not as cheap now, but I got to jump in with like a 10% deposit, and my side income from like my other businesses and my investing and my job let me buy that house. And where I lived, my bank would have not let me purchase a home if I didn't have a steady income source from a job. They didn't really see business income as reliable income. Not only that, but I then negotiated with my bank and I was like, hey, I'm an optometrist. My job's not going anywhere. People will always need glasses. In fact, like the rate of the amount of children that are becoming short-sighted, off the charts. Like, I'm going to be okay in terms of a job. You should therefore give me a lower interest rate on my mortgage. And my bank actually got back to me and dropped my mortgage interest rate, which was, I look back at like 23, 24-year-old Sim and I'm like, wow, you had so much audacity, girl. But I digress. I find that when you think of your job as your first investor, you are a little bit more appreciative of it because while you are figuring out the next move, your job is paying your bills. It's keeping a roof over your head. It's giving you consistent income. And sure, maybe it's not satisfying other parts of life. You know, maybe you're not as excited, or maybe the work isn't that great, or maybe you have a manager that's asking you to like not have coffee cups on the table. And you're like, is this really that big of a deal? But at the end of the day, they see value in your work. They're paying you every single month or every single week, and it allows you to focus on your next thing. And I always go back to Pyle, who started a company called ClassPass, which ended up becoming $1 billion company, a unicorn. But she worked at, it was either Bain or Disney. She worked at one of these companies, or maybe she started at Bain and then went to Disney. She was working at one of these companies. And when she went to leave, she told her like senior team, like, hey, I'm leaving. I'm starting this startup called ClassPass, and her executives and her team, one of them invested in her startup. Like, is that not the definition of your 9-to-5 as your first investor? Like, they believed in her so much and they were like, that's awesome. You've worked so hard here. Like, we're so proud of you. Here's some seed money. And honestly, they would have made such a good return on their investment because, like I said, it became $1 billion company in the end. So that was not a charity case. That was huge. All that to say, there are so many great reasons why you should keep your 9-to-5 job. You don't have to go off and start a business. Yes, there's some great pros of having a business, and I'm more than happy to do an episode maybe next week on like 4 reasons why you should have a business. But for those people that are comfortable and confident and are like, Sim, I like my job and I am happy about it. This is just a reminder, like, it teaches you what works. It will pay for you to upskill. It isn't just about your income. It's what you do with your income. And at the end of the day, the 9-to-5 is your first investor. Now, if you've enjoyed this episode, please let me know. I would love, love, love your support. If you could follow us on YouTube, subscribe to us on YouTube, leave a comment. It helps the podcast so much. It helps us reach more people, which gives us more resources, which helps us make better episodes for you. And with that, I'll see you next Tuesday.